Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Dava Shub, and I am the still relatively new CEO here at the Edlovich DC JCC, and delighted to be with you all this afternoon. I see folks filing into the Zoom room and know that we are also streaming, and this will be recorded for folks who will watch at a later time too. So thank you. We are so pleased to welcome you to today's critical conversation, the 21%, the lives of Arab citizens of Israel. This keynote presentation of the JXJ Festival and the Greater Washington Forum on Israeli-Arab issues has been 11 years in the running. And as the tragic events of the last few weeks underscore, the topic remains so crucial to engage with. I want to especially thank the Naomi and Nehemiah Cohen Foundation for being the lead supporter of this program since its inception. Huge gratitude also to the Interagency Task Force on Israeli-Arab issues, and all of the co-presenters who helped to spread the word about today's conversation. I also want to express my gratitude to the Israel Tennis and Education Center for their participation in this event, which is how we arrived at having Shadi Altori here with us. Welcome, Shadi. He's an incredible young man and athlete, and we are grateful to have him as part of today's conversation. This program, as you can imagine, was scheduled several months ago and is not a response to the current situation in Israel. We consider efforts to build a shared and equitable society between Arab and Jewish citizens of Israel to be as crucial as ever. I'd now like to welcome Ilya Tovis, Artistic and Managing Director of JXJ, to introduce today's speakers.
Thank you very much, Dava, and welcome all. It's great to see so many of you across the two platforms that we are streaming. I want to just quickly take a moment to echo many of Dava's thanks, and specifically to my thought partner and main collaborator on this program, and that's Allison McWilliams at the Naomi and Nehemiah Cohen Foundation, and also Jackie and her team at ITEC, as well as all of our co-presenters and partners, of which there's so many of this program. I do hope that you get a chance to check out the website and just see the list of incredible organizations that are supporting this conversation. It is my pleasure today to briefly introduce the speakers and the moderator, but before I do that, there are a couple of quick notes that are important about the event today. Just about the way it's going to run. We're going to open with a moderated conversation between our speakers and the moderator, and we will then take audience questions. Audience questions can be sent in text or chat format, and that's done slightly differently depending on how you're experiencing the program. If you're experiencing this through Zoom, which about half of you or so are, please use the Q&A function. You can see there's actually two on the bottom of your screen. One is Q&A and one is chat. Please try to keep your questions to the Q&A function. If you're experiencing this through the JXJ virtual platform on Eventive, there's just one chat box and you can put in your questions there. We do have, as has been mentioned, a lot of people participating, and so we're going to do our best to get to as many of the questions, but I expect we might not have time for all of them, and hopefully many of your questions will get answered during the moderated part of the discussion. Lastly, for the questions, it's important to note that Shuki and Shadi are here to share their personal stories and perspectives, and for that, we are deeply and immensely grateful. They are not political pundits and have been asked here to share their personal journeys, thoughts, and approaches to building shared society in Israel via sports. So please do keep that in mind as you craft your questions and send them in the ways that I mentioned. All right, I'm going to dispense for the rest of that preamble, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce the speakers themselves. First, we have with us Shuki Guzik, who's in my bottom right-hand corner. He is the director of the film that I hope you've already had a chance to watch, A Common Goal. In case a few of you haven't had a chance to watch it, it is still available on our platform through the end of the JXJ Festival on May 30th, and you should stay here. It's going to be a great discussion, kicked off by the film, but certainly encompassing broader themes as well. For the past 20 years, Shuki has been directing film and TV shows and documentary projects for just about all the major broadcast channels in Israel. Some notable titles including Yonatan Agassi, Save My Life, Who's Gonna Love Me Now as a cinematographer. And as a director, he has primarily directed TV series and documentary projects. He is joined by Shadi Altori. Shadi grew up in Rahat, the largest Bedouin community in the Negev. He is a Muslim Arab citizen of Israel. He is also a passionate and incredibly skilled and accomplished tennis player and an alumnus of the Samson Family Israel Tennis and Education Centers in Beersheba, where he participated in ITEC's coexistence program and the high performance program. His two younger siblings also play competitive sports, tennis specifically, and are top players in Israel in their age groups, representing Israel on the international tennis stage. Shadi is starting his BA in business at Tel Aviv University on a full scholarship. And lastly, it is my great pleasure to introduce and pass off the mic, and then I will disappear, and the program will start in earnest, to Erica Sheps, who is the moderator for today's conversation. She is the Program and Resources Manager at the Interagency Task Force on Israeli-Arab Issues, and in this capacity develops educational opportunities and written resources for task force members. She has spent most of her career in Israel and has consulted and conducted research for diverse local and international organizations. She has worked as a Middle East program coordinator for Encounter, where she planned programs to help cultivate more informed and constructive Jewish leadership on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and prior to that as a fellow at the Joint Distribution Committee. We are thrilled to have all three with us. It's going to be a fabulous discussion. Please enjoy, please submit the questions. And if anyone can't catch this now, we will have a recording of this conversation up through all of our social media and other platforms, so do spread the word there. Erica, take it away.
Thank you very much, Ilya. As was mentioned, my name is Erica. I'm the program manager at the Interagency Task Force on Israeli-Arab Issues. Thank you so much to J and the Greater Washington Forum for creating this opportunity and giving this educational platform to learn more about Jewish-Arab relations and Arab citizens of Israel in this really critical time. Normally at this point in a conversation, I bring up, why is it important to be talking about this topic? But I think that it's really been on people's minds, perhaps in a way that it hasn't been in a very long time. That being said, I do want to take a few steps back and do a little bit of framing for our conversation. As you know from the title, Arab citizens are about 21% of Israel's population, or 1.8 million people. The majority of Arab citizens live in Israel's geographic periphery in the north and the south, and in communities that are pretty isolated from the Jewish population. They also attend the Arabic public school system, which is distinct from the Jewish school system, really further limiting opportunities for Jewish and Arab citizens of Israel to have meaningful opportunities until adulthood. Mixed cities have really been in the news lately, which I'll mention is where a pretty small minority of Arab citizens live. And even there, Jews and Arabs tend to live in pretty distinct neighborhoods and siloed communities. Things like sports programs, twinning schools, twinning sports, are really sort of a key mechanism in promoting shared society work, particularly among young people, which is why it's such an important and interesting topic to really explore the issues of Arab identity and Jewish-Arab relations within Israel through sports. I'll also just note that Arab citizens are a highly impoverished community in Israel in many cases. They have the highest poverty rate in Israel, and there are significant socioeconomic gaps between Jewish and Arab citizens of Israel. There have been major government and civil society partnerships to narrow these, particularly over the last decade, with a lot of success in increasing Arab participation in higher education and creating opportunities for Jewish and Arab citizens to meet in the workforce. But there was a real backslide during COVID-19, which hit Arab communities particularly hard. And as we see, we now find ourselves in a crisis that many people have described as unprecedented. From afar, I think this crisis feels just like one big explosion, but there really are lots of smaller events, layers of nuance, complications, longstanding factors that are far beyond the scope of what we're going to be able to cover in this call today. But this really is a situation in which the impact on Jewish-Arab relations has been quite severe. And as Ilya mentioned, we've invited Shadi and Shuki to talk about their own personal experiences and journeys as they relate to their careers as athletes and as an athlete and a filmmaker, not to get into some of the political punditry. That's not what they're here to do. In a moment, we're going to begin our conversation. I told Shuki and Shadi, I really want them to feel like they're in conversation with each other. So I'm going to ask some questions, but want to cultivate a conversation between the three of us. And then we'll open it up to audience questions. And Ilya shared some of the technical ways of how to participate in that. But before jumping in, I just wanted to share a video clip that I think really underscores the potential role that sports can play in building a shared society and how people look to athletes as leaders, even in moments like this. As the crisis unfolded over the last few weeks and real clashes and tensions in Jewish-Arab relations, this video came out of, one second, let me try to share my screen with you, of of Israeli soccer stars calling for a cessation of violence and for moving towards real Jewish-Arab partnership.
אם לא נדע לחיות ביחד, נהרוס את החיים של כולם.
עכשיו, לטובת המחר, יחד.
אל תיתנו לזה להמשיך, תעצרו. ערבים ויהודים לא צריכים להיות אויבים. תגידו לא למלחמת אחים.
כולנו קבוצה אחת.
די, תרגיעו, תגידו לא למלחמת אחים. אנחנו, הכדורגלנים והכדורגלניות במדינת ישראל, קוראים לכם לגלות אחריות חברתית. תעצרו את האלימות. אסור לנו להיות אויבים.
אנחנו, כדורגלני ישראל, צריכים להפסיק את המלחמה הזאת. מספיק ודי לקיצוניות. אין מקום לאלימות. יהודים וערבים מסרבים להיות אויבים. אנחנו צריכים לדעת ללמוד לחיות במדינה הזאת כשותפים, כאחים.
Okay. With that as sort of an initial framing and launching point, I'm going to open our conversation and bring Shadi and Shuki in, the people who we're really here to hear from today. And I think we're going to start with the film itself, which 2 months ago is really what brought us into this conversation. Shadi, I'm curious, what was it like watching the film for you? What felt relatable and what felt like something that didn't relate to your experience as an athlete?
Actually, I experienced things very differently from the soccer players that were in the film. From the first day I got into the center, the Israeli Tennis and Education Center, everyone accepted me as who I am. For sure, I had the fear that maybe the kids will look at me at a different way because I'm an Arab. But throughout the time, I felt more comfortable with them. And I was proud to be who I am, and they accepted me. And don't forget that the difference between the soccer players and as well the tennis players, tennis is more individual game, and soccer is more like a team game. So in tennis, every player is responsible on his mistakes. It's not like a team play, so it's a little bit different. But yeah.
Shuki, I'm curious to hear from you. Shadi just mentioned tennis is very different from soccer, but I think another way it's different is how much in the public eye soccer players are. So I'm curious how much you think that dynamic sort of played into the challenges relating to identity that the players faced in the film.
I'm sure it's also, Shadi is right, first of all. Tennis is an individual sport and it's different, but also soccer is the most popular sport in Israel. So when you play soccer, when you play in the national team, you are always in the center of things. Media talk about you, television talk about you, fans talk about you. There are much more fans in soccer than in tennis. Soccer is played every week, every Saturday or Sunday in front of thousands of fans. So it's quite different. I think it's quite different. Shadi had to, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but you dealt mainly with the people playing with you, with your coach, with the other kids in the tennis court, but not in front of fans, not in big games. So I think that's what makes the difference. I wanted to say something about this short movie that you put. It's very nice, but I'm not so. Forgive me for touching the bubble, for blowing the bubble, because I think it was very hard to find soccer players to participate in this clip. I think most of the soccer players, Arabs and Jews, that the creators of this approach to them to participate did not do it. Everybody is quite afraid in Israel now, Jews and Arabs, afraid not only from one each other, afraid also from what their own public will say about it. If a Jewish soccer player will say something, so he will get fire from the Jewish part and from the Arabs. And same for Arabs. Arabs will always get more, I think. Yeah, it's quite sad what happened in Israel in the past few weeks. But I think definitely that sport is a very important tool to try and recover from this crisis. To try to put things back in place.
I mean, what you had shared about, the challenge of potentially finding players who want to do that and how they feel like they're going to get criticism no matter what they do from everyone, so we might as well stay quiet. I think that reminds me of what Bayram said at one point in the film. That's like, Arabs are mad at us for playing on the Jewish team.
Like we're
Jews are mad at us for not playing the national anthem. We're just stuck in the middle. There's nothing we can do about it.
There's nothing you can say that everybody will like. There's nothing you can say that will not get you into trouble.
I have something to add. A personal story about the thing of being in the middle. A few years ago at the 70th University of Israel, my sister was picked to be like the most improved athlete in Israel as an Arab Beduin. They had like a lot of posters all over Israel, pictures my sister as a Bedouin, representing and a best improvement athlete at Israel. We got a lot of messages, bad messages from our side, which is the Arab community, and as well from the Jewish side, how they did something like this. It's always in the middle. That's the bad thing in here.
Shadi, I'm curious, you're someone who finds yourself in that position of being in the middle, not nearly in the same way as the soccer players. You're not on television all the time. But do you feel some sort of role as an athlete that you're able to communicate and broker relationships in a way that maybe someone who hasn't had those experiences through sports meeting the others could?
I think sports is a very good key really to communicate between the two sides. I told you again about the fear that I had before meeting Jews, and throughout the time, when I come back to school and, friends of mine from Rahat, Arabs friend, ask me about how you, spend a lot of time with Jews and how Jew people, how they are in real life. And I always tell them that they need to know the truth by meeting them, and then they will decide if they are good people or bad people. Because most of the Arab communities, they just hear bad stuff about Jews and they don't get up and go meet those people in person. So me personally, and also as well my family, we opened this opportunity in our city, and we showed the people over there, and we showed the community that they need to go out and meet Jews and communicate more with Jews to know the truth about those people. And day by day, things were more close. And today, me personally, my parents and my sister and brother, we are like famous people in Rahat. We are like role models, and it's a big thing. We didn't expect this. Not at all. It was like a lot of fear, but we did it.
What I discovered when I did the film. So the thing that I saw a lot in Arab society, that at the end of the road, they are very proud of their representative sport athletes, or it doesn't even matter if it's doctors, if it's anything, anybody that gets into the Jewish society, into the I lack the words in English, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Everybody that is accepted by the Israeli and by the Jewish society, even though he gets criticism for cooperating, at the end of the road, people are very proud of him. Even if he plays in the national team, even if he goes and live with Jews and all this. I think about sport, what is really important about sport and why it's such an important tool is because you are measured as an athlete, you are measured only by your abilities. Not if you're Jewish. Everybody knows at the beginning of the game, okay, he's Jewish and he's Arab. But once the game begins, that's it. It doesn't really matter because if he plays in your team and if he's good, you're gonna like him, you're gonna love him, whether he's Arab or Jews. And the opposite is the same. If he's bad, you're gonna curse him, whether he's an Arab or he's a Jew. It doesn't really matter, okay? You're measured only by your abilities, and that's the beautiful thing about sport.
Shadi, I saw you nodding. I was curious if that resonated with your own experiences.
No, I was laughing because it's true. It's true. That's sport. When you play the game, when you're into the game, you forget about all those stuff. Where he from or something like that. You're focusing just on playing the game, or I don't know how to win the point, or how to get off the court in a good result or something like this, which is good. Me personally, the tennis court was like getting out all the bad stuff and all the politics and everything off the court, which is nice. Yeah.
So, we saw this some in the film a bit, and hearing you talk now, you're on the court, you're on the field, you have your tunnel vision, you're in your role. And then the game ends or the match ends and you leave and you go back to reality. And we saw some of the challenges that presented for the players. I was curious if both of you could share, Shuki, from your conversations with the players, Shadi, from your own life, what's that like to be in this one world in the arena of sports and then enter a pretty, charged political reality of the daily life in the country where you live and some of the experiences you have?
I think that the soccer players, it's something that they haven't decided also, because in one from one part they want just to forget about it. They want to be just a soccer players, just an athlete, do the sport, succeed in what they're good in. But on the other end, they also feel like they are representative of their society, their Arab society. So they don't want to lose this identity. They still want to say what they think, to represent their society. So it's also they're torn in the middle between their, as a personal career, all they want is to play, and all they want is to succeed. But it never stops. It never ends. At this point, you always will be remembered also for being an Israeli Arab, and I think they are proud in this. They are not trying to avoid it. I think they are proud of being an Israeli Arab. They are proud of being successful Israeli Arab, and they are proud to represent the Arab society in the national team and in Israeli sport.
Actually, to be an Arab in this country and to be a successful athlete or a successful anything, and to be an Arab in this country, it's a big deal for us. It's like a big deal. It's also representing Israel and as well representing your community, your small community. So for us, it's really like a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Have there been moments, Shadi, that you either were like being in that role, you were particularly proud of, that you felt like you were able to accomplish something unique? And were there any moments that felt really hard, or you felt like you had to make a decision that just another tennis player who wasn't part of a minority community wouldn't have had to worry about?
I've never felt this way. I always felt good, positive, Actually, before being a good tennis player, my goal was, is to be like a role model for my community, which is thanks to the ITEC. They gave me this ability to be a big ambassador, because they gave me the feeling, the safe feeling, the home feeling that I got from that place and how they accepted me. So I wanted to be a role model for my community. really to be to bring more kids from my community to feel the coexistence, to feel that the feeling of together, which is nice. That was my feeling, always positive, working on bringing peace, even though those past few weeks crazy here in Israel. I felt like a heartbroken, like my heart was broken when I saw all the stuff going on in Israel. But the first thing I did, like after a week, I called my friend, a Jew friend. He's living in a kibbutz, and I told him I'm coming with my uncle. He's an Arab. With food, with mansaf. We went to his home. We opened the door. We entered the house, and we told them we came here to make peace. And for us, it was nice to break the ice, to even though we had bad stuff going on in Israel, the fights between Arabs and Jews, and to see that there is good people, Arabs and Jews, that are working so hard to improve this thing, and to try to improve the peace over here in Israel.
That's actually a really great transition. I wanted to, we're all sitting here, most of us in the DC area, not in Israel, have been watching the events, of the last few weeks, heartbroken, as you are on the news. Not on the ground. So I was wondering if each of you can tell us a little bit about your personal experiences of the last couple of weeks. What has it felt like for you? What's it felt like in your communities? How are you doing?
Actually, it was quite terrible, I must say. I live in Ramat Gan, which is near Tel Aviv. If you know, it's not a mixed city. It's a Jewish town, most of it. And we had sirens. I had a missile falling very close to my house, and I must tell you, the sirens and the missiles, they were nothing. We can deal with this. It's not that I have no problem with this. Of course, I have problem with this, but this was not my problem. Seeing the riots, seeing Jews and Arab fight, seeing the synagogue get burned, seeing Arab guy got hit in the street by Jewish restaurants burned. This, like Shadi said, this broke my heart. I can't even really say what I think about it, because for me, it was terrible, because there was a feeling in Israel, mostly in the last year, I think mainly because of COVID. Because there are many Arabs in the Israeli health system. A lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, and there was a feeling that we get together, that Arabs and Jews get together, that people understand that we have a common destiny here, that we need to work for one another, that Arab doctors saves Israeli life, Jewish life, and Jewish doctors save Muslim life. And we were, I think, minutes before a new government here, with an Arab party in it for the first time.
Everything destroyed.
And suddenly, everything is destroyed in a second, in a minute. Boom, everything is ruined. Everything we thought that is going to the right direction was just destroyed in a minute, and we viewed things that I didn't imagine that are possible. I was watching television and I couldn't believe it's really happening. I told you I live in Ramat Gan, but Jaffa is 10 minutes from me. I have nothing good to say about it, I must tell you the truth. It was quite heartbroken. The thing is, what we're going to do next. I've just talked today. I called when we did the film, I had an Arab researcher from the north that helped me with the players, with the Arab community, and all kinds of things. I talked with him today an hour and a half, I think, something like this, on the telephone, trying to figure out what we do next, what's next. Telling you I have the answer, I don't have the answer. I don't know. Just maybe things like this, and Shadi, just talking to one another, trying to understand one another.
I think the next thing we need to do is to close social media, because social media plays with our brains.
Oh.
I mean, social media has like a big part of what was happening here in Israel, the big fights that was going on between Jews and Arabs. As I told before, heartbreaking, to see those stuff going on. Like years of working on bringing, those two communities together, in one hand has destroyed. And again, we need to build it again for more and more years. We need to be positive, and we need more people like me, like Shuki, to stand and to work more hard and to bring it back, maybe better.
I think maybe if I want to be optimistic, maybe people will understand how fragile it is and how we don't want to mess with things. It's very fragile, so all of us need to be very careful. And people has to think about what they say and about what they do. The problem here that we have pyromans. We have people that like the fire, that like to throw gas into the fire, in both sides, I think. And us, the same people, the people that want to live together, the people that want to live in peace, we need to raise our voice.
Shadi, I was hoping you could also share a bit. I know you now live in the center of Israel, correct, with your family, because you're for your siblings' tennis careers, but you're from Rahat originally. What's it like being in the center of Israel the last couple of weeks, also talking to your family and friends in Rahat? What have been the different experiences?
I was just thinking about it, how the ITEC, how affected on me, and then moved to my brother and sister for a good way. My parents saw how this thing came into us in a good way, and how they saw us improving, not just as tennis players, but in real life, to be better people for life. How we got values, life skills, on those stuff. They sacrificed everything for us. And I think 2 years ago, my parents decided to move from our, childhood city, the city that we grew up when we were kids, our big family. We decided to move to the center, near the main center in Ramat Sharon, and now we are living with Jews together. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big thing. And we didn't felt differently, nothing. We didn't felt any different. We came on like we were the same. And this is how sometimes you can see the beauty of this country. But even though throughout those 2 weeks that we had in Israel, the scandal that we had, everything was good here in Ramat Sharon, in the same building that the Jews are living there with us. We just need time for that.
I told you before when we talked the last time, because it's Ramat Sharon, I don't know if everybody knows, very liberal city, very, very liberal city.
They want to live in peace. They want to be, yes.
Yeah, but I wish it was all over like this.
Actually, a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, we did like a big demonstration in the south, near Rahat. A lot of Bedouin communities and Jews from near Rahat, there was a lot of kibbutz in down south, and a lot of Jews and Arabs came on together on the streets, screaming for peace, which was nice to see how my community, the Bedouins, did something like that. It was like a good feeling, that our community in a good way, and thanks to us.
Yeah. How has, I'm curious now, just hearing you talk about your family moving to the center, moving a little bit away from the last month, just to speaking more generally. How did your community in Rahat react when your family said, we're picking up, we're moving to this liberal Jewish city near Tel Aviv? What was that like?
Even though we are far away from our home in Rahat, we are still celebrates in Rahat. We're like, even though we are far away, we're still living over there. They are so proud of us. The ITEC decided to start a big program in Rahat, based in Rahat, bringing kids, Arab kids, to help them on education, playing tennis, getting values, life skills, all those important things that every child needs for the future. We came into the event a couple of months ago, and we were like, celebrates over there. People are so proud. They want parents want their kids to experience and to be the same way that we got throughout the ITEC, which is amazing and warming as well.
Something you're making me think of hearing you share this and looking at the events in the news is you see how many people are young people and are young men, teenage boys in particular. And a lot of the commentary has talked about this as sort of a generation that's unemployed from COVID and really had nowhere to be over the last year and months. And I hear such a contrast in you talking about the opportunities you've had and how that's really made you and your family sort of role models in your own community. And it's a very different and inspiring type of story.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you something, Shadi, but you think that a Bedouin child from Rahat really has the opportunity, like you're a case, you're good in sport and sport helped you, but you think a child from Rahat has an equal opportunity to go out from and succeed in the Israeli society?
Yeah, I think that there is no difference. I came into this community. I came into the center not to play tennis and to be like a competitive tennis player. I came over there just to have fun after school. And, my parents, before putting me over there, they heard about this organization. They have 16 facilities all over Israel, and most of the facilities are located near underprivileged neighborhoods. Maybe you've heard about Bnei Or neighborhood in Beersheba. They filmed there the new TV series right now, and Zaguri maybe. It's located near this neighborhood. So the main idea of this organization is bringing kids from tough neighborhoods, kids that has problems with their families, different kids from different backgrounds, to bring them in one place and to let them feel safe and let them feel home without looking at their religion, color, background, or even money. They don't ask for any money. Which is like a big thing. And for me, it's like, it was, again, I had a lot of fear for that, but they gave me the good feeling to be open and to be proud of who I am. So I think there is no difference between me and between other kids in Rahat. They can have the same opportunity that I have, and they can be like me, because we need kids and we need men like me to understand things in the right way.
So why isn't it happening? Because Rahat is a very poor place, we know this.
Yeah. Now it's happening. We are opening the program very soon in Rahat.
Okay.
I think they are planning to build a center. They are going slowly. And hopefully very soon, maybe they will open a center over there. And, the big thing will happen. Every kid will have an opportunity to be in a good place, in a safe place, in good hands, and I think in closed eyes they will be in a good place, and they will have a bright future for sure.
I think what I'm hearing in this conversation, sitting and listening to Shadi, your incredible optimism and hope, and Shuki coming out, I think, from these horrible weeks and feeling like this, as you said, this heartbroken, this despair, is this question of there's amazing programs out there. You know, as I mentioned a little when I opened the conversation, particularly within the last decade, civil society organizations, NGOs, philanthropy, the Israeli government has invested a ton of resources in trying to create opportunities like the one Shadi has had. And we can see the impact of getting to participate in a program like the one he did. But ultimately, that's still really a minority of Arab citizens of Israel and even Jewish citizens who have gotten to interact with each other in a meaningful way, that built teamwork, that built partnership, that had things that gave social mobility and a chance to move about the country. And we're seeing a contrast between what kind of opportunities and what life looks like when you might have those opportunities and what it looks like when you don't. And I think as we think about moving forward from this moment, that's what a lot of the shared society organizations and people are really reflecting on, is how do we make more of these opportunities so society is less fragile, as Shuki said, and there's less of an ability for things to just sort of move into a place of heightened tension so quickly and so easily.
I think absolutely, because I think if you look at what happened in the last few weeks, most of the young people going out for the streets were young people feeling that they have no future. This is the problem. Arab youth that feels that he has no future. So as more as we have programs like this, as more as we give opportunities to Arab children, to Bedouin children, it will do good for all of us, I'm sure.
Great. So I have so many more questions I can ask, and I'm enjoying our back and forth so much. And yet I'm seeing the questions come in and want to make sure that we get to hear from the audience too. So I'm going to move into asking some questions from the audience. We've had a few different questions about Arab athletes' reluctance to sing Hatikva, which was a major theme in the film. Can you each share a little bit more background about why this is? Why do some Arab players not want to sing?
I didn't get the question, I'm sure. I'm sorry.
No, just this was asked by a lot of different people in the audience about Arab players' reluctance.
Why Arab players don't sing the anthem song?
Okay.
And if you can give a little more background as to why you think that is, Shadi, I'm curious to hear, watching the film, how you related to that conversation about whether or not Arab players should or shouldn't be singing the national anthem.
Actually, as a small kid, before getting involved with Jews and all those stuff, they told me that I don't need to sing the anthem, the Israeli anthem song, and I didn't understand why.
Who told you? I'm sorry.
I don't know. When you hear from I don't know, from school, kids, friends, something like that.
No, but from Bedouin societies, or Jewish told you, listen, you don't have to do this.
No, not from the Jewish society, from my society.
Okay, from your society. Okay.
But I didn't understand why. When you don't know why, it can get you crazy. So I was like searching, looking, asking, I don't know, in Google or something. You can search for something. Why? I don't know. Maybe the meaning of the song. Maybe because of that. And then I understand that the anthem song is talking about Jews, about Zioni. And Arabs in Israel are not, they are not Zionim, they are not Jews, right? So you can't sing a song of, I don't know. If you know what I mean, Shuki.
Yeah, I know, of course. I said, we talked about it a lot in the film that I did. We talked about it a lot with the Arab players. It's just the words of the Israeli anthems are for a Jewish soul, being a Jewish soul in the land of Israel. This is the translation of the anthem. I can understand why a Muslim soul doesn't want to sing being a Jewish soul. So we can understand this. But I think you can also understand, like you in the States, you can understand that fans wants to see, like when American athletes or national team in basketball or whatever goes to the Olympic Games or something like this. Everybody is very excited to see, and everybody puts their hand on their heart and singing the anthem in a passionate way. And we can't have it here. So not all of the fans can understand this. Not all of the people in the media can understand this.
Yeah.
I can understand it, but not everybody.
I'm very curious to ask you a question. Do you think that one day maybe they can change something?
No. If I think they should, or if I think they can. They should, they won't.
They should, I think they should.
Yeah,
both know that they should.
But it will never happen.
Will never happen.
Listen, this is the core of the conflict. Okay, this is the core of the conflict because Jewish see the country as a Jewish country. Jewish see the country as a Jewish country, and although they say to Muslims or to Arabs or to Christians or whatever, you can live here as citizens and everything will be, and you will have the same rights and everything, but still remember this is a Jewish country. And to tell you that I have the solution for this, I don't know. I really don't know. But this is the core of the conflict, actually. Can you feel part of Israel if you are not Jewish? Can you be a part of the Jewish state as a Muslim or as a Christian? You tell me, you feel part of the Jewish state as a Muslim?
If I feel part of the Jewish state, I feel part of Israel.
Of Israel. So, yeah. But again, this is the question, you know. It's not only the anthem, it's the flag. You have Magen David on the flag. You don't have
That's right.
Arab flag.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you see the flag, when you hear the anthem, okay, say, okay, it's talking about Jews, so you can't identify this. But when you see the flag with the Magen David, with this you can't. I understand it's a problem. I can't even answer for it because I'm not in your shoes, you know. I don't know how you feel when you are a minority in a country. It's something that I can try and understand, but we never can probably.
Shuki, that's actually a great. The question you asked is very similar to a question we got from the audience for Shadi, which is, has your relationship to Israel and your Arab identity evolved over the years? And sort of that core tension that Shuki mentioned, it's not really about the anthem. It's about what the state of Israel is and how it feels to be a minority who's not Jewish in the state. So I'm curious what your relationship is and if it's changed.
Talking about that, you know, sometimes, not sometimes, always, when I hear the anthem song, if I watch soccer game, or if I watch like a Davis Cup game. Davis Cup is like a national tournament for tennis or any big event in Israel. And when I hear the anthem song, I don't sing it, but I feel something from the inside. I feel something from the inside because this country gave me so much things as an Arab, you know. A lot of people maybe feel different here in Israel, that they don't have like they don't treat them equally like Jews. But personally, me and my parents and my family, we felt equally like everyone, and we are so proud to be in this country. We are so proud to be representing this country because they gave us a lot.
So actually what you're saying that I have no problem of being a minority in the Jewish state? I'm trying to understand, really.
I have no problem. If I had any problem with that, I was not talking to you right now. Or I'm not trying to, I mean, I have a big respect and I have a big love. As a child, most of my friends were Jews, not Arabs. My enemy, almost all my enemy were Arabs. And throughout the time, they understand the truth of being together, and then, you know, things were in a better way. So my childhood was, you know, most of my friends till today are Jews. So,
and I wonder, you know, I think, you know, from working at the task force and engaging with, you know, learning about Arab society, I think that's a really unique experience that you've had growing up, where you not only had so many Jewish friends, but whereas a child, you knew Jews, you played with Jews, you interacted with them. That's not something that a lot of Arab citizens and Jewish citizens really do.
Again, they hear bad stuff. You know, you need to stand and go meet the people in person, and then you will decide alone if they are good or bad.
We got a question from the audience, again, very related to this, which is about, you know, Jews and Arabs having the opportunity to meet with each other. Someone asked about the education systems. I mentioned that most Jews and Arabs don't attend school together. Where are Jews and Arabs meeting? Does this happen at the university and higher education? Are there schools where Jews and Arabs get to learn in the same classroom? If you can share what you know or think about.
The question is for me, right?
I think, but for both of you, I don't know if you have any insight onto that, Shuki, but either of you can answer.
Shuki, you can go ahead.
Shadi can start.
Go for it.
Okay. Actually, I've been part of many programs that we had at school.
Lost connection.
Oh. Yeah, I think he's going in and out. So Shadi, if you want to cover it for now, and then Shuki can add any thoughts you have.
Actually, in those past few years, when I was in school, I'm 21 right now. So it was 4 years ago, when I was in high school. A lot of schools, Arab schools and also Jewish schools were working to bring, you know, kids, classes together to interact, you know, Jews and Arabs together. And also I had an opportunity to represent my school from Rahat abroad. We flew with the Jewish schools to Albania and to Macedonia. The idea was to be in Albania because Albania was the only country, Muslim country, who helped Jews during the Holocaust many years ago. So it was like a trip, like a coexistent trip. So in Israel, a lot of schools are working together, you know, bringing kids, Arabs, Jews together, to let them interact, to let them enjoy, to let them have fun, to let them know about personal lives, what they are doing in the you know, on their daily basis or something like this, which is nice.
Shuki, I'm wondering for you, I mean, you're of different generations. Did you, as you were growing up, or if your family, did you have opportunities like that to meet with Arabs?
I have some bad internet problem connection. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, now you're here.
I can't hear you.
We can hear you if you can hear us.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll talk if you can hear me, because I didn't have too much communication with the Arab children. Actually, I didn't have any communication with Arab children when I was a child. Most of Israelis see Arabs when they go to Arabs restaurants, when they go shopping on Saturday, because when they go to malls on Saturday, most of the workers are Arabs. When they go to the doctor, because a lot of doctors are Arabs. So, you know, not only things like this, but to tell you that there's a real communication between Jews and Arabs, no. And I think the problem is the education system, because the education system are separated in Israel. By the way, not only between Jews and Arabs, Also between Orthodox Jews and non-Orthodox Jews, and between religious and non-religious, and between religious, Ashkenazi religious and Sephardic religious, and everybody here has a different education system, so you don't really get to meet Arab children as a child. So I think this is one of the main problems, that we don't really have a good relationship or communication, that are not connected to merchandise or to food or to restaurants or to suppliers of services and things like this.
So I'll just pull back and share a little bit more information I know also related to that question. Is like Shuki said, really the vast majority of Arab and Jewish students go to separate schools. There are a few private-public partnership schools that are intentionally joint Jewish-Arab schools, and there are even fewer. There are a few sort of unique situations where towns are having more Arab residents move in, or are mixed cities where there are a couple Arab students in primarily Jewish schools. But most are not interacting in the school system until higher education, until you get to college, and then you're all meeting each other. And that being said, like Shadi said, there are some programs, and they're trying to build more, that sort of twin Jewish and Arab schools so they get to know each other. But right now, that's not something that is available to everyone. It's only available to some students.
Don't forget when, when you come to the center, you can see like a lot of Arabs and Jews, kids, interact with each other. And, at the same time, the different parents are, meeting together and, talking, chit chat, which is nice. And one time we did like a big invitation. My parents invited the manager, the coaches, a lot of kids from the center to come to Rahat, to our home, to see the Bedouin city, which is like different from Jewish cities. It's old. The streets are not in a good shape, and to see the culture, our culture. We had a big meal. We had fun together, which is nice.
Unfortunately, we have time for one more question, and this will also be your chance to leave any concluding thoughts that you have. Following the events of the last 2 weeks, where do you find hope? Do you still see sports as sort of a key to building a shared society between Arabs and Jews, or has that been shaken? Shuki, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, first of all, it definitely has been shaken, especially if I'm referring to my field, especially in the Israeli national team. Both of the players, two of the players that are in the film, Biram Kial and Munis Dabur, both of them wrote their opinion on on the social media, and actually the things are not really good now at the national team between the players. They were starting to get, we are starting to hear all kinds of things that we didn't heard before about the relationship between Arab and Jews, but still, I'm sure that it will be back. The relationship will be good back again in sports, and I'm sure that it will happen also in Israel, because we don't have any other choice. Eventually, when Arab and Jews communicate one-on-one, it's always good. It's always working. Okay, I never had a trouble communicating with an Arab or any argument. When we are one-on-one, it's all good. When it starts to get to national point of views and groups and things like this, then things get worse. And I think eventually life will win. We need to live together. There's no choice. We must live together. We need to learn how to live together. And I'm trying to be optimistic. I don't have any other choice.
We need to be optimistic.
Shadi, do you have any thoughts on thoughts you want to leave the call with?
I think sports will always be a good key and a big help for this kind of situation. You know, we have no other choice, and you know, always when you do something, you forget about everything around us. So sports will always be a good key, and hopefully things will be better. We need to be optimistic. We need to work hard for that, and hopefully things will be good.
Thank you very much, Shadi and Shuki, for taking time out of your evening after a very hectic month to speak with us. Shuki, for creating this film that generated such a thought-provoking and interesting conversation. And of course, to JXJ and the Greater Washington Forum for convening this call and bringing all of us together for this discussion. I hope we continue to learn and be in conversation about these really important topics. Have a great afternoon and evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.